Commander Zixfel drifted through the control chamber of his exploration ship, its energy form glowing soft blue in the dim light. For 300 years, he had mapped the peaceful worlds of the galaxy, documenting new species and welcoming them into the Great Harmony Council. Every world he found followed the same pattern. Life grew slowly, peacefully, learning to work together instead of fighting. It was the natural way of things. The scanner made a soft chime. Zixvel floated closer to the display. New signal had appeared from the outer rim of the galaxy, from a small system that their long-range sensors had marked as impossible for life. The readings made no sense at all. "Computer, run the scan again," Zixvel said in his musical voice. The same impossible data appeared on the screen. The third planet in the system showed signs of intelligent life, but the conditions there should have killed anything that tried to live. The weather systems were violent beyond belief. The ground shook and split open regularly. The atmosphere was full of poisonous gases. Massive storms raged across the surface. The oceans were filled with salt that would burn most known life forms. Yet, somehow something lived there, something that built cities and sent signals into space. Zal sent the data to the Harmony Council on the central world of Etherian Prime. Within hours, he received a response that surprised him. The council wanted to meet in emergency session. No one could remember the last time the council had called an emergency meeting. There had been no emergencies in the galaxy for over 10,000 years. The great meeting hall on Etherian Prime filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Beings of light floated next to creatures made of living crystal. Aquatic species swam in floating tanks, while plant-like entities rooted themselves in special soil containers. All of them lived in perfect peace, sharing knowledge and resources. Freely across the galaxy, Elder Vrinka of the Luminian species raised one of her 6 arms to speak. Her people were made of pure light and had been part of the harmony for longer than most species could remember. "Oh, this data cannot be correct," she said, her voice like wind chimes. "No intelligent life could survive on such a world. The conditions described would destroy any known form of consciousness." Dr. Kethmore, whose crystalline body rang like bells when he moved, studied the readings. "The atmospheric composition alone should prevent complex life," he said. "Levels would cause massive fires. The nitrogen content would poison most neural systems. And the reports of water falling from the sky in frozen chunks large enough to cause damage make no scientific sense." "Perhaps the readings are wrong," suggested Elder Nimshaw from her water tank. Her aquatic species had been among the first to join the harmony thousands of years ago. "Our sensors may not work properly at such distances," but Zixvel had checked and double-checked everything. "The readings are correct," he insisted. "Something lives on that world. Something that has learned to use tools and build structures. The signals show they have discovered basic electronics and may be close to achieving space travel." The meeting hall fell silent. In 12,000 years of galactic harmony, every species they had encountered followed the same peaceful development pattern. Life began in calm oceans or gentle forests. It learned to cooperate first, then slowly developed intelligence and technology. Species worked together to solve problems rather than competing or fighting. War was just an old word in ancient history books that no one really understood anymore. Prime Coordinator Veltone, whose collective consciousness spoke for multiple species at once, finally broke the silence. If beings have truly evolved on such a hostile world, they may have developed traits we cannot imagine. They may have learned behaviors that are unknown in our peaceful galaxy. "That is exactly what worries me," said Elder Vrinka. "Any species that survived such conditions must be incredibly dangerous. They may not understand the concept of harmony. They may try to take what they need from others instead of sharing." The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted to avoid contact completely, fearing that beings from such a violent world might bring chaos to their perfect peace. Others, led by Zixel, argued that any intelligence deserved a chance to join the galactic community. Finally, they reached a compromise. Zixvel would take a small exploration fleet to observe the impossible world from a safe distance. They would study these strange beings and decide whether contact was wise or dangerous. Meanwhile, light years away on the third planet of that small system, Captain Jake Rivers stood on the bridge of humanity's first faster-than-light spacecraft. The ship was called New Horizon, and it represented 10 years of human engineering and dreams. Jake had been chosen to lead this mission because of his experience as both a military officer and an explorer. His crew of 12 included some of Earth's best scientists and pilots. "Long-range sensors are picking up something interesting," reported Lieutenant Amy Stone from her communications station. She had learned 6 languages before joining the space program and specialized in making contact with new cultures. "Are artificial signals coming from deeper in the galaxy? It's very advanced, but definitely not natural phenomena." Dr. Luna Bright looked up from her biology station. She had spent her career studying life in extreme environments, preparing for the day when humanity might find life on other worlds. "If those are really artificial signals, it means we're not alone in the universe," she said, excitement clear in her voice. Jake stared at the sensor readings. Humanity had always wondered if other intelligent life existed among the stars. They had built radio telescopes and listened for signals for decades, but had never found anything definitive. Now, on their first journey beyond the solar system, they might be about to get their answer. "How far away are the signals coming from?" Jake asked. "Approximately 40 light-years," Amy replied. "The signal pattern suggests a highly advanced civilization. Multiple sources, very organized, using technologies we don't recognize. Are they coming this way?" Amy studied her instruments more carefully. "I'm detecting movement. Several objects heading in our general direction, but still very far away. They seem to be approaching slowly and carefully." Jake made his decision. "Set course to intercept, but maintain a safe distance. We'll observe first and see what we're dealing with. This could be the most important moment in human history." Pilot Lisa Hayes adjusted the ship's course. She had been chosen for this mission because of her ability to handle dangerous flying situations. On Earth, she had been known for taking risks that other pilots wouldn't even consider. "Course set, Captain. We should reach optimal observation distance in 6 hours." As the New Horizon moved toward its historic meeting, neither humans nor aliens realized how completely they were about to change each other's understanding of life in the universe. The peaceful galaxy was about to meet a species that had been forged by constant struggle, shaped by challenges that would have destroyed any other known form of life. Zixvel's exploration fleet detected the human ship at the same time the humans detected them. Both sides slowed their approach, uncertain what to expect. Neither could have imagined that this first contact would reveal fundamental truths about survival, strength, and the different paths that evolution could take. In his ship, Zixvel wondered, what kind of beings could survive on such an impossible world? On the New Horizon, Jake Rivers wondered if humanity was about to make friends or enemies among the stars. Soon, both sides would discover that the answer was more complex and more important than either could have guessed. The quiet galaxy. It's about to meet the children of a world that had never been quiet, never been safe, and never been easy. Everything was about to change. The first contact protocols of the Harmony Council were simple and had worked perfectly for thousands of years. 2 ships would meet at a safe distance. It would exchange basic mathematical concepts to establish communication, and they would share information about their cultures, biology, and peaceful intentions. It had never failed to create friendship between species, but as Commander Zixvel floated in his ship's communication chamber, staring at the human vessel on his screen, he felt something he had never experienced before. Uncertainty. The ship itself looked wrong somehow. Where Harmony vessels were smooth and curved like living things, this human craft was angular and hard. It looked like it was built to survive damage rather than avoid it. Dr. Kethmore's crystalline form chimed nervously as he studied the readings. "Their ship is made of metals we use only for emergency repairs," he said. "The entire hull is designed to withstand impacts that would destroy our vessels. Why would they build something so heavy and defensive?" On the New Horizon, Captain Jake Rivers felt equally confused as he watched the alien ship approach. It was beautiful, like a piece of art floating through space. The hull seemed to glow with its own light, and it moved with a grace that human ships could never match. But something bothered him about it. "Lieutenant Carter, what do you think of their defenses?" Jake asked his security chief. Ben Carter studied the sensor readings and frowned. He had spent 10 years in the military before joining the space program. He knew how to spot weapons and armor on any kind of vehicle. Captain, I don't think they have any defenses at all? No armor, no weapons that I can detect, no shields. So that ship is completely helpless if anyone attacks it. Maybe they're so advanced they don't need weapons, suggested Dr. Luna Bright. Or maybe, Ben said quietly, they've never needed them. The communication exchange began simply enough. Both sides transmitted basic mathematics, and within an hour, they had established a common language system. The first messages were standard: greetings and peaceful intentions. But as the conversation continued, both sides began to realize how different they really were. Commander Zixvel tried to explain the Harmony Council to the humans. We are 847 species, working together in perfect peace, he transmitted. For 12,000 years, we have shared knowledge and resources. No member of the Harmony has ever harmed another. We solve all problems through discussion and cooperation. Jake Rivers found this hard to believe. 12,000 years of peace? No conflicts at all? No wars? No disagreements that couldn't be solved by talking? War is an ancient concept that we do not understand, Zixvel replied. Our historians have found references to it in very old texts, but no living being has ever experienced such a thing. Why would intelligent beings harm each other when cooperation achieves so much more? Dr. Luna Bright began sharing information about Earth, starting with basic biology. She explained how life had evolved in Earth's oceans and spread to land. The alien scientists listened with growing amazement and horror. Your world has how many extinction events? Asked Dr. Kethmore, his crystalline body ringing with distress. 5 major ones that we know of, Luna replied. The worst one killed 90% of all life on the planet. But life always came back, usually stronger and more diverse than before. Elder Nimshaw spoke from her water tank aboard Zixvel's ship. How is it possible for life to survive such catastrophes? On our worlds, if even 10% of life died, it would take millions of years to recover. Earth life is very good at adapting, Luna explained. When conditions change, the species that can adjust survive and reproduce. The ones that can't adapt die out. It's called natural selection. The concept of natural selection was completely alien to the Harmony species. On their worlds, life had evolved in stable, gentle conditions. Species learned to cooperate and share resources instead of competing for them. Idea that living beings would struggle against each other for survival was as foreign to them as their peace was to humans. You're saying that on your world, living things fight each other to survive? Asked Dr. Kethmore. Not fight exactly, Luna said, trying to explain. They compete for resources like food and places to live. The ones that are better at finding food and avoiding danger have more offspring. Over millions of years, this makes species stronger and smarter. Lieutenant Ben Carter couldn't help joining the conversation. It's not just animals, he said. Humans have been competing and fighting for thousands of years too. That's how we learn to work together, make better tools, and solve difficult problems. The word fighting sent shockwaves through the alien delegation. Zixvel's energy form flickered with confusion. Humans fight each other? Members of the same species? Oh, we used to fight a lot more, Ben explained. Wars, battles, conflicts over territory and resources. But we learned that cooperation works better than fighting. We still train for combat, but now we mainly use those skills for defense and emergencies. You train for combat? Dr. Kethmore's crystalline form was ringing like an alarm bell. Deliberately learn how to harm other beings? We learn how to protect ourselves and others, Ben corrected. Military training teaches discipline, teamwork, and how to handle dangerous situations. Most of the time we use it for rescue operations, disaster relief, and keeping the peace. The aliens found this concept impossible to understand. In their peaceful galaxy, there were no dangerous situations to handle. Natural disasters were rare on their stable worlds. The idea of training specifically to deal with violence and danger was completely foreign. Dr. Luna Bright tried to help by explaining Earth's environment. Our planet has violent weather systems called hurricanes and tornadoes that can destroy entire cities. The ground shakes in earthquakes that can level mountains. Volcanoes erupt and cover huge areas with melted rock. Ice ages freeze most of the planet for thousands of years. Humans learn to survive by being adaptable and resourceful. Your planet actively tries to kill you, Elder Nimshaw asked in amazement. Not exactly tries, Luna laughed. But Earth is a very active, changing world. The climate shifts, the continents move, asteroids hit us occasionally. Life has to be tough to survive there. Pilot Lisa Hayes was monitoring the conversation while keeping the ship steady. Her job had been dangerous on Earth, testing new aircraft in conditions that would scare most pilots. She decided to share her perspective. The danger is part of what makes us good at what we do. I learned to fly by practicing in storms, wind, and mechanical failures. When everything is trying to go wrong, you learn to stay calm and find solutions. Statement horrified the aliens even more. It's the idea of deliberately putting oneself in danger to improve. It's completely against everything they understood about intelligent behavior. The conversation was interrupted when the ship's sensors detected an asteroid on a collision course with the alien vessel. It was small, but moving fast enough to cause serious damage. Automatic alarms began sounding on both ships. On Zixvel's ship, the crew immediately began emergency procedures. They started powering up their engines to move away from the asteroid's path. The process would take several minutes, and the asteroid would hit them before they could escape. Lisa Hayes saw the situation instantly. Without asking for permission, she fired the New Horizons engines and moved toward the asteroid. Her plan was simple, but dangerous. She would use the ship's hull to deflect the space rock away from the alien vessel. "Hayes, what are you doing?" Captain Rivers demanded. "Saving our new friends," Lisa replied calmly. She had done similar maneuvers in Earth's atmosphere, using her aircraft to push debris away from populated areas during natural disasters. The human ship struck the asteroid at precisely the right angle. The impact sent the space rock spinning safely away from both vessels. The New Horizons shuddered from the collision, but Lisa's calculations had been perfect. The ship's strong hull absorbed the impact without serious damage. Aboard the alien ship, everyone stared in shock. What they had just witnessed was impossible by their standards. The human pilot had deliberately put her ship in danger to save beings she had just met. The maneuver required split-second timing, perfect calculation, and the kind of risk-taking that no Harmony species would ever consider. "How did you do that?" Commander Zixvel asked, when communications were restored. "Training and practice." Lisa replied simply, "On Earth, we call it thinking on your feet. When something goes wrong, you adapt and find a solution quickly." Dr. Kethmore studied the sensor readings of the collision. According to his instruments, the impact should have destroyed the human vessel. The fact that it had survived suggested that these beings built their tools to withstand damage that would obliterate anything the Harmony had ever constructed. As both ships continued their cautious approach to each other, the aliens began to realize that they had encountered something completely unprecedented in galactic history. These humans came from a world so hostile that it had forged them into beings capable of surviving anything. They had strength, adaptability, and courage that existed nowhere else in the known galaxy, and for the first time in 12,000 years of peace, some members of the Harmony Council began to wonder if their perfect, safe civilization might have missed something important about what it meant to truly. News of the humans spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within days of first contact, every member species of the Harmony Council was discussing the impossible beings from the Death World. Some were fascinated by human adaptability and strength. Others were terrified by stories of competition, conflict, and survival training. The debate split the galaxy in ways that hadn't happened for thousands of years. Elder Vrinka led the faction that wanted to keep humans isolated. From galactic civilization, they are dangerous, she argued before the full council. Beings who learn to survive through violence cannot be trusted in our peaceful society. But Commander Zixel had spent hours talking with the humans, and came to a different conclusion. They saved our ship without hesitation, he reminded. The Council, they risked their own safety to help others. These are not the actions of dangerous beings. Dr. Kethmore had been studying the biological data that Dr. Luna Bright shared about humans. What he found amazed and worried him equally. Their bodies are built like nothing we have ever seen, he reported. They have backup systems for vital organs. Their bones heal themselves when broken. They can function with injuries that would kill any known species. But they also have something else, added Dr. Sorman, a behavioral specialist. They have psychological resilience. They can stay calm and think clearly in situations that would drive our people insane with fear.
Oh.
The Council requested a formal, diplomatic meeting with Earth's government. Captain Jake Rivers sent a message back to his home planet explaining the situation. The response came 3 weeks later in the form of a full diplomatic mission led by General Alex Morgan. Alex had served as Earth's top military strategist for 15 years before moving into diplomatic work. He understood both war and peace, which made him the perfect choice to represent humanity to a galaxy that knew only one of those concepts. His team included historians, scientists, cultural experts, and unfortunately, from the aliens' perspective, several military advisors. The meeting took place on Etherian Prime, the capital world of the Harmony Council. It was a planet of impossible beauty, with cities that floated in mid-air and gardens that grew in perfect geometric patterns. Everything was designed for peace and harmony. There were no defenses, no weapons, no signs that conflict had ever existed. General Morgan stood before the assembled representatives of 800 species and tried to present humanity's peaceful intentions. "We come seeking friendship and cooperation," he said through the translation system. "We want to learn from your wisdom and share what knowledge we can offer." But every attempt to show humanity's civilized nature seemed to backfire. When Morgan mentioned Earth's United Nations, aliens were horrified to learn it had been created after something called a world war. When he talked about international law, they couldn't understand why intelligent beings would need rules to prevent them from harming each other. Dr. Sam Wright, a human expert in evolutionary psychology, tried to explain how human society had developed. "We learned cooperation through necessity," he said. "When we faced challenges too big for individuals to handle alone, we worked together. Our greatest achievements came from combining competition with cooperation." Competition, repeated Prime Coordinator Veltan. "This concept keeps appearing in human speech. Please explain it again." Sam thought carefully about how to describe competition to beings who had never experienced it. It's when individuals or groups try to achieve the same goal, and only one can succeed. Like two athletes racing to see who is faster, or two companies trying to build a better product. "But why would you want only one to succeed?" asked Elder Nimshaw. "Would it not be better for both athletes to run together, or both companies to share their knowledge?" "Sometimes, yes," Sam agreed. "But competition pushes beings to improve themselves. The athlete trains harder to win the race. The company works harder to make better products. Everyone benefits from the improvements, even those who don't win." The concept was almost impossible for the peaceful species to understand. In their worlds, resources were abundant and challenges were rare. There had never been pressure to compete or improve beyond what was comfortable and easy. Meanwhile, Dr. Sam Wright was conducting his own studies of galactic civilization and making disturbing discoveries. He spent hours in the great libraries of Etherian Prime, reading the history of dozens of species. Every story followed the same pattern. Species evolved slowly on gentle worlds, developed technology through cooperation, and joined the galactic community when they achieved space travel. But Sam noticed what was missing from their histories. There were no stories of innovation born from desperation, no accounts of breakthrough discoveries made under pressure, no examples of rapid advancement driven by necessity or competition. General Sam reported to Alex Morgan in private, "I think we have a problem? This civilization is incredibly advanced, but they've been stagnant for thousands of years. Their technology focuses on comfort and harmony, but not on solving difficult problems or adapting to change." "What do you mean by stagnant?" Alex asked. Their starships today use the same basic designs they used 5,000 years ago. Their cities haven't changed significantly in millennia. They've created a perfect, stable society, but they've also removed all the pressures that drive growth and improvement. Alex began to understand the implications. So they've never had to innovate or adapt quickly to new challenges. Exactly. That might be a serious problem. The problem became clear sooner than anyone expected. Long-range sensors at the edge of the galaxy began detecting movement in a region that had been empty for thousands of years. Signals were artificial, but unlike anything in the Harmony database, Commander Zixvel was among the first to investigate the new readings. What he found filled him with a terror he had never known existed. Ancient automated ships were awakening in the galaxy's outer rim, ships that had been dormant so long that only the oldest historical records mention them. The Devourers, plague of mechanical beings that had swept across several star systems millions of years ago, consuming entire worlds and converting the matter into more ships. They had been defeated once, long before any current species achieved spaceflight, but somehow they had survived in hibernation mode at the galaxy's edge. Zixvel rushed back to Etherian Prime with his findings. The emergency session of the Harmony Council was the largest gathering in galactic history. Representatives from every known species filled the Great Hall, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of fear and confusion. The historical records are incomplete, reported Elder Nimshaw, her aquatic form trembling in its tank. We know the Devourers were stopped, but not how. The civilizations that defeated them are extinct. Their worlds are empty now. Dr. Kethmore's crystalline body rang with distress as he analyzed the new sensor data. They appear to be reactivating slowly. First one ship, then 10, now hundreds. The pattern suggests they multiply by converting matter from asteroids and dead planets into new vessels. How long before they reach inhabited systems? Asked Prime Coordinator Velton. At current rate of expansion, approximately 6 months, Zixvel replied. But if they begin consuming inhabited worlds, their growth will accelerate exponentially. Hall fell silent, except for the various sounds of alien breathing, thinking, and existing. For the first time in 12,000 years, the galaxy faced an existential threat, and for the first time in their peaceful history, they had no idea what to do about it. General Alex Morgan had been listening to the discussion with growing alarm. As a military strategist, he understood the implications immediately. You're facing an enemy that grows stronger with every victory, he said. Traditional defensive strategies won't work. You need to stop them before they can establish momentum. What do you mean by defensive strategies? Asked Commander Zixvel. Military. Tactics for protecting your territory and people from attack. Alex explained. The alien representative stared at him in confusion. Eldervinka spoke for all of them. We do not understand these concepts. We have no knowledge of military tactics or defense against attacks. Such things do not exist in our society. The horrible truth began to dawn on both humans and aliens. The galaxy's greatest strength, their perfect peace, had become their greatest weakness. They had advanced technology, but no weapons. They had great wisdom, but no knowledge of conflict. They had achieved harmony by eliminating all traces of the very skills they now desperately needed. General. Morgan felt the weight of the entire galaxy settling on his shoulders. You're telling me that 800 species, with technology far beyond ours, have no way to defend themselves? Defense implies the existence of attack, said Dr. Kethmore. We eliminated the concept of attack from our civilizations long ago. We thought we had evolved beyond such primitive needs. Security Chief Ray Palmer, who had been quietly observing the discussion, finally spoke up. His voice was grim as he addressed the assembled aliens. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of various classifications, you have a problem. You've built a paradise, but you've forgotten that the universe can be a dangerous place. Now something dangerous has woken up, and you have no idea how to fight it. Earth's response to the galactic crisis was swift and massive. Within 2 weeks of General Morgan's emergency message, a fleet of 30 human ships arrived at Etherian Prime. Leading them was Admiral Kate Sullivan, a woman who had spent 20 years protecting Earth from asteroid impacts and space debris. She was known for her ability to think quickly, under pressure, and make decisions that saved lives. Admiral Sullivan stood in the Great Council Hall, looking at representatives from hundreds of species who had never seen a weapon or planned a battle. Her task seemed impossible. How do you teach peaceful beings to fight when they don't even understand the concepts involved? The first thing you need to understand, Sullivan told the assembled aliens, is that the Devourers don't think like living beings. They're machines with one purpose: consume matter and make more of themselves. You can't negotiate with them, reason with them, or find peaceful solutions. The only way to stop them is to destroy them completely. Elder Vinca's light form flickered. With distress, you're asking us to learn to destroy other beings. This goes against everything we believe. I'm asking you to learn to protect yourselves and everyone you care about, Sullivan replied firmly. The Devourers will consume every world in this galaxy if we don't stop them. Every species, every culture, every beautiful thing you've built will be turned into metal and machinery. Dr. Kethmore's crystalline body chimed nervously. But how can we learn such alien concepts? Our minds were not made for violence and destruction. We'll start with the basics, said Sergeant Tony Black, stepping forward. Tony had trained soldiers for 10 years before joining the space program. He was patient, methodical, understood how to teach complex skills to people who had never needed them before. The first training sessions were disasters. Tony tried to teach basic tactical thinking to a group of volunteers from different species. The crystalline beings couldn't handle the stress and literally cracked under pressure. The energy beings simply floated away when presented with simulated conflicts. The aquatic species became so agitated they couldn't maintain their form in their water tanks. This isn't working, Tony reported to Admiral Sullivan after a week of failed attempts. Their minds and bodies aren't built for this kind of thinking. When I try to teach them about strategic positioning, they want to discuss the feelings of imaginary enemies. When I show them defensive formations, they ask why we don't just invite the attackers to join us instead. Admiral Sullivan had expected this problem. We need to work with their nature, not against it. What are they good at? They're incredible at cooperation and coordination, Tony admitted. They can work together in ways that human teams never could. And their technology is amazing when it's properly applied. This gave Sullivan an idea. Instead of trying to make the aliens think like human soldiers, she decided to combine human strategy with alien capabilities. She called in Dr. Nina Ross, Earth's leading expert in combining different technologies. Dr. Ross had spent her career taking human engineering concepts and adapting them to work with alien technology. She was brilliant at seeing connections that others missed. When she saw the aliens' advanced systems, her eyes lit up with possibilities. Their shield technology is 1,000 years ahead of ours, she told Sullivan excitedly. But they only use it for protecting against space debris and radiation. We could modify these shields to stop weapons and absorb energy attacks. What about weapons? Sullivan asked. They have incredible power sources and beam technology, but they only use them for mining and construction. With some modifications, we could create defensive systems that would make their ships nearly invincible. The work began immediately. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists to create something neither species could have built alone. The aliens provided advanced technology and precise manufacturing. The humans provided strategic thinking and knowledge of how to design systems for combat. Meanwhile, Sergeant Tony Black had found one species that could learn military concepts, the Kethfer. They were insect-like beings who had retained some competitive instincts from their evolution. The representative warrior prime, Hextall, is the closest thing to a soldier that the galaxy had produced in thousands of years. My people remember the old ways, Hextall explained through clicking sounds that the translation system converted to speech. Before we joined the Harmony, we competed for resources and territory. We understand the concept of defending our hive. Can you teach other species what you remember? Tony asked. I can try, but most have forgotten how to think in terms of conflict. They see all disagreement as something to be discussed and resolved peacefully. Tony and Hextall began working together to develop training programs that alien minds could understand. Instead of teaching them to attack enemies, they taught them to protect precious things. Instead of learning to destroy, they learned to prevent destruction. It was a subtle difference, but it worked. The breakthrough came when Dr. Ross completed her first prototype weapon system. It was mounted on Commander Zixvel's ship for testing. The weapon used alien energy technology combined with human targeting systems and strategic programming. "Fire at that asteroid," Sullivan instructed during the test. The beam that emerged from the ship was unlike anything humans had ever seen. It struck the asteroid and didn't just destroy it, but converted its matter into a cloud of harmless particles. The aliens watched in amazement as their peaceful technology became a tool of protection. "We did not destroy," said Dr. Kethmore wonderingly. "We transformed. We took something dangerous and made it safe." This concept resonated with the alien mindset in a way that pure destruction never could. They began to understand that defending their civilization didn't require them to become violent beings. It required them to use their abilities to transform threats into safety. Training programs were established on dozens of worlds. Alien crews learned to operate the new defensive systems, while human advisors taught them strategic thinking. The process was slow and sometimes frustrating. But gradually the galaxy began to develop its first defensive capabilities in millions of years. Admiral D. Sullivan established command centers on key worlds throughout the galaxy. Each center was staffed by human strategists working with alien coordinators. They began planning the defense of the galaxy using a combination of human military knowledge and alien technological capabilities. The most important discovery came from studying the ancient records about the previous Devourer invasion. Dr. Sam Wright, working with alien historians, found fragments of information about how the machines had been stopped before. The original defeat wasn't achieved through superior firepower, Sam reported to Sullivan. It was accomplished by turning the Devourer's own nature against them. The ancient civilizations found a way to reverse their consumption programming. "What does that mean?" Sullivan asked. "Instead of consuming matter to make more ships, they were somehow made to restore matter to its original state.
They became builders instead of destroyers."
Dr. Ross immediately saw the implications. "We could modify our weapon systems too. Reprogram the Devourers instead of destroying them. We could turn their entire fleet into allies. Is that possible? With human programming knowledge and alien transformation technology, maybe. But we'd need to get close enough to their command ships to upload the new programming. That means fighting our way through their entire fleet." Admiral Sullivan began planning the most complex military operation in galactic history. She would need to coordinate the defenses of hundreds of worlds while simultaneously preparing an assault on the Devourer fleet. The operation would require perfect timing, incredible courage, and technology that had never been tested in real combat. As the Devourer fleet grew closer to inhabited systems, the galaxy's new defenders prepared for their first real test. Alien crews who had never imagined conflict practiced with weapons designed to protect rather than destroy. Human strategists worked around the clock to coordinate defenses across 1,000 worlds. Warrior Prime Hextall led the first integrated combat unit, combining his species' ancestral fighting instincts with human tactical training and alien technology. The unit was small, but represented something that had never existed before, a truly galactic defense force. "Are we ready, Commander Zixvel?" asked Admiral Sullivan as the final preparations were completed. Sullivan looked at the mixed fleet of human and alien ships, crewed by beings who had learned to work together, despite their completely different natures. "As ready as we can be," she said. "Your people have learned to fight without losing their peaceful hearts." That might be the most powerful weapon in the galaxy? The Devourer fleet was only days away from the first inhabited systems. Soon, the galaxy would discover whether the children of the Deathworld had successfully taught the peaceful species how to protect themselves, or whether 12,000 years of galactic harmony was about to come to an end. In command centers, across hundreds of worlds, humans and aliens worked side by side, preparing for a battle that would determine the fate of every living being in the galaxy. The Deathworlders had become teachers, and their students were about to face their final exam. The Devourer fleet appeared at the edge of the Harmony systems like a dark storm spreading across the stars. Millions of mechanical ships moved in perfect formation, consuming asteroids and space debris as they advanced. Each piece of matter they consumed became part of their growing armada. The peaceful galaxy watched in terror as the ancient nightmare became reality. Fleet Admiral John Kane stood on the bridge of Terra's shield. The command ship for the Combined Defense Force, he had been chosen to lead the final battle because of his experience commanding complex operations involving multiple nations on Earth. Now he faced the challenge of coordinating hundreds of alien species who had never fought together before. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from the outer systems," reported Lieutenant Commander Ellen Price from her station. "The Devourers have consumed 3 uninhabited worlds in the past 6 hours. They're converting the planetary matter into new ships faster than our projections predicted." John studied the tactical display showing the enemy fleet. The Devourers moved like a living thing, with smaller ships scouting ahead while massive constructor vessels followed behind to process consumed matter. It was unlike any enemy pattern in human military history. "How long until they reach the first inhabited system?" John asked. 18 hours at current speed," Ellen replied. "The Kethver homeworld is directly in their path." Warrior Prime Hextall's voice came through the communication system from his ship in the advance fleet. "My people are ready to defend our world, Admiral Kane. We will not run from these metal demons." "No one is running," John assured him. "But we're not making our stand at your homeworld either. We're going to stop them before they get there." The plan John had developed with Admiral Sullivan was complex and dangerous. Instead of waiting for the Devourers to attack defended positions, the combined fleet would strike at the heart of the enemy formation. Their goal was to reach the command ships and upload Dr. Ross's reprogramming virus before the mechanical fleet could adapt to their tactics. "Captain?" Ellen Price led the first wave of integrated human-alien combat units. Her ship, the Harmony's Edge, carried a crew that would have been impossible to imagine just months before. Human tactical officers worked alongside crystalline navigators, energy being communications specialists, and aquatic systems engineers. "All units begin the approach," Ellen commanded. "Remember, we're not trying to destroy everything. We need to punch through their defenses and get our technical teams close enough to their command ships." The battle began with an exchange of energy beams that lit up the darkness of space. The Devourer ships fired weapons designed to break down matter at the molecular level. But the combined fleet's shields, based on alien technology, enhanced with human strategic programming, absorbed and redirected the attacks. Chief Engineer Rick Gold worked frantically in the Terra's Shields engineering section, monitoring the new weapon systems. His team had spent weeks perfecting the technology that could reprogram the Devourers instead of destroying them. But it had never been tested against real targets. "Admiral, the Harmony weapon is ready for deployment," Rick reported. "Need to get within close range of their command ships. The programming signal won't penetrate their shielding from a distance." "How close?" John asked. "Close enough to touch them." The battle intensified as more Devourer ships joined the fight. The mechanical fleet began adapting to the defenders' tactics, changing their formations and weapon frequencies to counter the alien technology, but they couldn't adapt to something they had never encountered before: human unpredictability. Ellen Price's unit executed a maneuver that no logical computer would ever attempt. Instead of maintaining safe formation flying, her ships broke apart and attacked from completely random directions. Human pilots used techniques learned from Earth's chaotic atmospheric conditions, while alien crew members provided technological support that amplified every advantage. "Target the constructor ships first," John ordered from the command center. "If we can stop them from making new vessels, we can manage the existing fleet." Sergeant Tony Black led a boarding party onto one of the smaller Devourer ships. His team included volunteers from 6 different species, each contributing unique abilities to the mission. The crystalline beings could interface directly with alien computer systems. The energy beings could travel through the ship's power conduits. The aquatic species could function in the zero-gravity areas where the ship's artificial gravity had failed. "This is incredible," Tony reported as his team moved through the Devourer ship. The entire vessel is one giant machine. There's no crew, no life support, just systems designed to consume and convert matter. Can you reach the central processing unit? Ellen asked from her ship. Working on it. The layout is completely alien, but our crystalline team member is making progress with the computer interfaces. Meanwhile, Admiral Sullivan coordinated the broader defensive effort from Etherian Prime. Reports came in from across the galaxy as Devourer scout ships probed defenses on dozens of worlds. The peaceful species, guided by human strategic advisors, were successfully repelling attacks that would have been impossible for them to handle just months before. The defense of the Luminian homeworld is holding, reported Commander Zixvel. Their converted mining equipment is proving effective against the smaller Devourer ships. What about the Aquatic Alliance worlds? Sullivan asked. They've successfully used their water-based technology to create defensive barriers the Devourers can't penetrate. The mechanical ships seem unable to process liquid matter efficiently. The breakthrough came when Tony Black's boarding team reached the central processor of their target ship. The crystalline team member, a being called ShortStories, interfaced directly with the Devourer's main computer. I can see their programming, ShortStories reported, his crystalline form resonating with the ship's frequencies. It's ancient, but simple. Consume, convert, expand. But there's something else. Underneath the consumption program, there's another layer of code that's been dormant. What kind of code? Rick Gold asked from his engineering station. Restoration protocols. These machines were originally designed to repair and rebuild, not to destroy. The consumption programming appears to be a later addition that overwrote their original purpose. Rick felt excitement surge through him. That's it. We don't need to reprogram them completely. We just need to reactivate their original restoration. Code and suppress the consumption programming. The Harmony weapon was modified in real time as the battle continued around them. Instead of trying to implant entirely new programming, the weapon would simply wake up the sleeping restoration protocols that already existed in every age. Devourer ship. Fleet Admiral Kane made the decision that would determine the fate of the galaxy. All units converge on the command ships. We're going to end this now. Final Assault was the most complex military operation in galactic history. Human ships using Deathworld-trained tactics fought alongside alien vessels employing technology beyond human understanding. The combined fleet punched through the Devourer defenses using strategies that no purely logical enemy could predict or counter. Captain Ellen. Price's ship reached the first command vessel and deployed the modified Harmony weapon at point-blank range. The programming signal penetrated the command ship's systems and began awakening dormant restoration protocols throughout the mechanical fleet. The effect was immediate and amazing. Devourer ships throughout the formation began to slow and stop their attacks. Their weapon systems powered down as ancient restoration programming overwrote the consumption commands. Ships that had been destroying asteroids moments before began carefully rebuilding them. It's working, reported Rick Gold as he monitored the signal propagation. The restoration code is spreading through their entire network. Each ship that gets reprogrammed sends the signal to others. Within hours, the entire Devourer fleet had been transformed. Millions of mechanical ships that had threatened to consume the galaxy were now working to repair the damage they had caused. They began rebuilding the worlds they had consumed, using stored matter patterns to restore planets to their original states. The galaxy celebrated the victory. Fleet Admiral Kane understood that something more important had been achieved. The peaceful species had learned that they could defend themselves without becoming violent. They had discovered that strength and wisdom could coexist in the weeks that followed. The galaxy began to change in ways no one had expected. The former. Devourer ships became the galaxy's construction fleet, rebuilding damaged worlds and creating new ones. The peaceful species maintained their harmonious nature, but now understood the value of being prepared for challenges. Human military advisors became permanent members of galactic society, not as conquerors, but as teachers and protectors. Earth's harsh evolutionary history had created beings perfectly suited to guard a civilization dedicated to peace and cooperation. Admiral Kane stood on the observation deck of the new Galactic Defense Station, watching human children play with. Alien youth in games that taught both cooperation and healthy competition. The Deathworlders had not conquered the galaxy or changed its fundamental nature. Instead, they had taught it how to protect what was precious while remaining true to its peaceful ideals.